Welcome back, everyone, to OpenLine. We are talking with the opinion and engagement editor with Tennessean. He's joining us now via Zoom, David Plazas, and a bunch of calls talking about who was to blame for what happened last week at the Capitol. Of course, the president was impeached today as a result of that in the House. It'll move on to the Senate. Bunch of calls, like I said. Let's go to Reverend Fuzz. Reverend Fuzz, always great to hear from you.
Hey, Ben, you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay, you cut me off in 45 seconds, but, and David, good evening. You know, I'm really somewhat disillusioned by where does this go? I've worked with, like the U.S. Justice Department here in Nashville, and they'll explain how they investigate threats. And here's one threat that I think America is in real danger right now. You'll know if I'm right by this time next week, but we're in real danger. One of the ways they explained it, they said that extreme Islam, that only 1% of Islamics agree with extreme Islam. Well, you know, I mean, there's a billion Islamics, so there's probably 2 billion, but just let it be a billion. But 1% of a billion, that's like 10 million people, okay? Well, they said that then there's 10% of Islam who are sympathizers with that 1%. They don't believe in them, but they kind of like don't know one way or the other. And then there's another 10% who says, why don't we all just get along, leave people alone? So you're up to like 200 million people right there. Donald Trump had 74 million votes. 1% of 74 million, that's like 700,000 people, or is that 7 million? That's a lot of people, 1%.
Right.
Then you got those people out there who don't know one way or the other. And so there's a lot of people, there's a lot of danger in the country, but there are 300 million people, so all of us are not, you know, divided. We're not cut off from one another. It's not as bad as we make it seem that nobody in America is talking. A lot of people just want to get along. But I can't see that nobody knew what was going to happen in Washington. And so I got to say, FBI, law enforcement, somebody had to know what was going on. You know how to do your job better than that. And then you let the combatants get on an airplane at the airport and leave town and celebrate at the airport. They just left town. They robbed the bank, they burned down the town, and just left town. And out of all the pictures we've seen, you've only arrested 70 people. I don't have a lot of confidence in what's going on right now. Why we spend time trying to do this 25th Amendment thing when the vice president is telling you he's not going to go along with it. So you should just moved on and not wasted that time. So those are some of my thoughts.
All right.
And I'm very concerned.
Reverend Fuzz, thank you. There's a lot to kind of go on there, but I am interested. His first question was, what happens next? He said we're not as divided as it may seem, but then he also says he's very concerned. I guess, how concerned are you, David, about where we are right now? Obviously, the National Guard is there, sleeping in the Capitol. More National Guard people in Washington, D.C. than in Iraq and Afghanistan. We're certainly more prepared than we were a week ago. But how concerned are you about where we are right now?
Well, let me just unpack one thing, which is the threat in this case wasn't made of Muslims or even extreme Muslims. In this case, it was white supremacists. And that's been identified as one of the largest threats facing America by agencies like the FBI. And I'm extremely concerned. I'm extremely concerned by people who have an ideology that they are superior because of their race to other folks and are willing to use violence to quell that. And we're willing to use violence with noose, zip ties, other weapons as they storm the Capitol. I mean, this is something that is horrific. As it's been often mentioned in news reports, the storming of the Capitol hasn't happened since the British came during the War of 1812. So I do share Reverend Fuzz's concern about, you know, how did this happen? And why are more people not under arrest? You know, already there's you've had the police chief essentially is no longer in his job. There's a change in sergeants at arms there in the Congress, and there are also some officers who are under investigation for, was this an inside job? That's a question that a lot of people are asking as I've been doing reporting and also reading. And that would be absolutely scary. If we ourselves are our own people, it's like the Pogo, that famous quote, which the enemy is us.
That is disturbing. Yeah, the enemy is us. And there is that one congresswoman who was saying that she believes there was help from other Congress members by giving tours the day before so they could scope things out. Yeah, there's some just very disturbing stuff. Let's go to Lucy now. Hello, Lucy.
Hey, y'all.
Hi, what's on your mind?
Well, the movie Black Christmas 1974, the phone call came from within the house. So, and it has some ironies to the bombing downtown in Nashville when they were trying to trace the call. And nobody could figure it out, and the perpetrators got away. Well, I tell you what, Mr. Plazas, you're right. I wrote a little law for classes, and I have to have my facts, and I have to define and justify my facts as facts in order to write a brief, even a small brief. That's what law's on. It can't be schizoid like this. I have to say this, but I put all this on the Republicans. When you start talking about the rich and the poor, I heard this argument today about, oh, here we go, we're going to go back to politically correct speech. And I'm like, that comes from, you can't call black folks the N-word, so they're the ones who invented politically correct speech. As in, when you go to talk about the poor people and the rich people, they call that now culture wars, okay? All that crap kind of came out of Vietnam. And it was surprising for me to see Dick Cheney's daughter roll out of the Republican Party to make her charges, which I fully agree with, when her father, who was in the Nixon administration, believed what Nixon believed in, was absolute power. Well, here we are again. We've got this whole absolute power thing going on. The only reason, in my opinion, that Nixon resigned is because Hunt was going to put a murder contract out on somebody, and that was in the record, and they didn't want to have that go through the public, and the Republican Party tarnished their image then. So,
wow.
A lot of people don't know that the whole Watergate thing busted from a guy here in Tennessee named Shipley. And all these conspiracy theories, I tell people, you can take a fact, yes, that did happen, but don't take a fact and spin your yarn with it. Shipley, strangely enough, used to be a member of the downtown YMCA, and he was out running one day, and he just dropped dead of a heart attack, and they couldn't explain it, and everybody said that was a mafia hit from Nixon back then. But did people go nuts? But let me just say
really
a couple
quickly.
more things.
Go ahead.
But when it comes to what Jefferson said that the majority in power, which could be the minority in number, are supposed to ensure the rights of the other people. And that's supposed to be the rule, but in the past 40 years, I've seen them get away with that. And I've seen where money, putting all these businessmen in there instead of people who want to be public servants, has brought us to this point. Donald Trump is treasonous, and the people that went down and did what they did, they betrayed this country, period.
Okay, period. There we go. What did you think about Liz Cheney? That was very interesting that she was so outspoken today. Did that surprise you? What did you think?
Well, I think it goes along with the fact that she has her roots, even though she has been in the past a Trump supporter in the Republican establishment, with their father being the former vice president and defense secretary. But it also, Donald Trump, was targeting her. too beforehand, and I think that's significant to mention as well. He was targeting Republicans who he thought weren't Republican at all, or maybe weren't Trumpist enough. Maybe it's a better way to say it. And this is one of the things that we have to remember. Members of Congress don't swear allegiance to the president. Article 1 of the Constitution, which outlines the Congress, that comes before Article 2, which outlines the presidency. Those are the people's representatives, and they swear an oath to the Constitution and to defend this nation, not fealty to the president.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back. We'll take more calls. Be back right after this.